Good evening, everybody. This is Cap'n Tinsley, Salty Abandon with the Salty Podcast number 7. And we have a very special guest tonight. We have Terri Ivins of Adventure Yacht Sales. And before I bring her out, I just want to say she's an Island Packet owner, liveaboard, yacht broker, and author. So here we go. We have Terri Ivins. Hey, Terri.
Hey, Tinsley, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you tonight?
I am doing great. I am very excited about this because I literally just got a text from a buyer who called me earlier in the day, and I said, before you move forward, I want you to make some phone calls. So he told me he had to call 4 different insurance companies before anybody would even talk to him. So this is kind of
Okay.
a good thing
That's
to be.
part of the process. That's part of the
Exactly.
process. Well, we're
Yep.
gonna get into all that. So, I am very excited that you're here. We met before. I think we've met one time. It was in Annapolis.
Actually, did you come to see the 32 that I had listed in Fort Pierce? Did you come to see
Ye
that boat?
Yes. Did you have that one listed?
That was my listing, yes.
Oh,
And then
okay.
I think you went on
Went
kind of
to
like
the one in Marco Island.
right, and then I think you
Yeah.
ended up with the one over in St. Pete or
Palmetto. Yeah.
Palmetto. Yes,
Close.
yes.
Right, yeah.
And we did meet at the boat show. Yes. I met
Yes, I
you and
remember
Scotty at the
you.
boat show.
Yes, and I remember you talking about your at the time you were on a what? You lived on a what
38
size?
Island Packet.
Island Packet 38. And I
Right.
know and now you have a
Well, today I have a 380 and
okay.
I'm soon to have another boat. So my 380 is up in the Chesapeake. I brought it up there a little while ago. And I'm actually getting ready to purchase another Island Packet, but this is going to be um kind of for my business, but a smaller Island Packet, like an Island Packet 29. It's a
Oh, okay.
hurricane boat. It was dismasted in the Hurricane Ian,
Okay.
and since my boat is up in the Chesapeake and I'm here, I kind of need some place to stay. So I'm
Okay.
thinking that I'm gonna, try to shift things around. But so I will soon be a 2 Island Packet owner. Can you believe that?
Okay. All right. Well, before we go further, I want to introduce tonight's sponsor,
Okay.
which is me, Tinsley Myrick, Remax of Orange Beach. And in case you didn't know, I sell Gulfront condos, Gulfront homes, and non waterfront properties here in Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Alabama, as well as Perdido Key. So I am licensed in Florida. So if you have any interest in buying property here, please, there's the email there and there's the website. So with that, back to Terri. Okay, I do have some questions.
Okay.
So let's start with also if you're no matter where you're watching from, what platform, because we're actually live on 5 platforms right now. Please smash that like button, subscribe, share, do what you got to do. We need some more attention to the podcast, and I'll really appreciate it. Um, okay. First, let's touch on the basics. How long have you been sailing?
I did not start sailing until college. So I was introduced to sailing later in life. I think it's great that there are kids who are out in opties when they're 8 years old, but that was not me. I attended St. Mary's College of Maryland, and I had to take a gym class. And I'm like, I am not taking a gym class. And they said, well, you can take sailing. And I thought, all right, well, that sounds like fun. And that single, decision not to take a gym class really changed the course of my life because, we had, I want to say probably 2 months of classroom, and then they said, all right, well, today you're out on the water, and it
2
was
months of classroom. Wow.
yeah, I mean, it was pretty intensive. So, well, just fundamentals, I mean, they had to meet some sort of common core thing,
Sure.
I guess. I don't know. But anyway, But we got out on the water, and I can remember the moment that I realized like this was my calling in life. It was October, late October. It was freezing, and I was on a laser, and it was, my hands were cold. I actually capsized. I turtled the boat, and I thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. And that's
In cold weather.
in cold. Then I joined the sailing team. I'm like, they are having a great time. So not only do I get to travel, not only do I get to sail, but I get to travel. And we raced against the Naval Academy, Sunny Maritime. But what I didn't really put together was, we were in the Frostbite series. So we raced October, November, December, January, February, and it was very cold. So but that did not deter me. I was like, this is amazing. So that was kind of my first introduction into sailing, and it's something that just stuck with me. And I also remember I had a professor. So St. Mary's College in Maryland is on the St. Mary's River, and there's like a big bay. Well, I thought it was big. When you're on a little boat, it seemed really big.
Yeah.
And there was one of my economics professors lived on his boat, and he rowed ashore every day. And I thought, that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So that kind of, added another dimension, like, wait, people live on their boats. So it just planted a seed.
Well, that was my next question. How long have you been living aboard?
Since 2010. So
That's a long time.
It is a long time. And I have to tell you, I don't think I'm going to live on land ever again. You probably should never say ever or never, but I
That's what if you saw my number 5 podcast, that's Key West John says the same thing. He'll
Yeah.
never have a house.
Yeah.
He could have a house, but he just likes to live.
Well, what I love about living on the boat is, I love the boat, but what I love more is maybe the lifestyle. So, if I live at the dock, so I have a slip. I guess I'm kind of, my ex-boyfriend used to call me a princess. I like air conditioning. I'm sorry. I just think it's kind of important in Florida. But what I like about living on a boat is the marina lifestyle. So if you want to be with other people,
I love that too.
You just walk down the dock, or you go to the laundry room, or you sit on the porch, and and there's always somebody doing something, and then if I want to be by myself, or if I have work to do, I can go to the boat, which is kind of my sanctuary, and I'm by myself. So
we have to acknowledge some of the people that are commenting right now live. Do you see it on the screen? These people from Stuart, you may know them.
Oh, really? How are you seeing?
It's at the bottom of it. Should be right below our pictures, right on the screen. Jim and Lynn Dugan watching from Stuart. You probably know them.
They're my besties. Yes, yes.
IP38, 1991.
Yep.
And then we also have Florida Buckeyes watching on YouTube.
Nice.
And,
I like it.
Howdy Captain tuning in from Newport Richie. And then here, look, this is Thad. I know Thad watching from Wisconsin.
Thad, so, you need to get a boat. Come get out of Wisconsin during the winter.
Yeah, it's really cold up there. So, they like to watch things about sailing and warm things, when they're up there all snowed in. Hey, Thad. Yeah. But anyway, I hate to interrupt it. Yeah, I get that. I like to anchor out, but I sure do like pulling up to a nice floating dock with with the restaurant there, and I get to ride my bike around the town. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, I like that you go, and you've taken trips. I mean, how long have you gone out for? Almost a month
every year since. Oh, I was gone 6 months this past year. It was longer. I mean,
wow.
I kind of felt guilty because I work while I'm gone, but I wasn't working real hard, and
Gotcha.
And I have a great assistant, and I have a team that if someone comes to town and I'm not there, I do fly home to
Right.
show property. I have someone that can, I can refer to and everything. I'm not a trust fund baby, so I still have to work, but I was gone 6 months and I loved it when I
That is
wasn't feeling
awesome.
guilty. But I've gone every year since 2016. This was the longest trip. I usually, 2, 3 months.
Yeah.
So, but hey, we don't know what tomorrow will bring, right? We got to go now if you
Yeah.
can.
Well, exactly. And I was just working with a client over the weekend, and it came up in conversation. I can always make more money. I can't make more time. And I thought about that as I was driving away. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go sailing. I want to take time off, not time off, but I want to. My goal for the year is to spend 80% of my time on the water. Um, but I
Well,
need
you
to be,
are.
I know, really, but I need to be more specific about it. But, you know, and it's different for everybody. I mean, it's great that you get to, that you make the time and you figured it out. And I think it is,
Yeah, I feel
it
very
is
blessed.
possible. Exactly. And, I know Scotty's very supportive. I mean, you're like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
we
give you
worked
a
it out.
lot
Like
of credit.
he doesn't wanna come all the time, but we just worked it out where he comes and
Yeah.
I'm okay by I grew up a latchkey child, so I'm very independent. So,
Well, that's
Gen X,
good.
right? Gen X.
Yeah. Yeah.
So but yeah, so I'm very blessed that I have a supportive husband, but, so okay, so the next question I have here is what led you to living aboard? Did you answer that?
Mm, no, I didn't answer it. So it goes back to that when I saw that professor who was anchored out, and rowing ashore. Now I'm sure there was a lot more going on in his life at the time that was probably put
He
him in
was
that
rowing.
situation.
He didn't have a motor, but he was rowing. Keeping
Very
in shape,
romantic.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I haven't always lived aboard. I mean, I actually had, I had 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, a picket fence, a pool, the whole 9 yards, and I lived in the same house for 20 years, and it just, so when I got divorced, and my kids were older, they were going to college. That's when I thought, I need to do this. This is something that I've always wanted to do. Living aboard, I actually had a boat at the time. My first boat that I lived on was horrifically small. It was a 28-foot Morgan out island. And it was not the right live aboard size boat, but I stayed on that for 6 months while I was, finding what I thought was going to be the forever boat. And so it's, a series of life events kind of gave me the opportunity to change my lifestyle. And I feel very blessed to have had, to have had my kids and the family and
Right.
experience, that mainstream lifestyle. But I'm glad that I sold everything and, sold my house, sold my rental house, and moved on the boat. That was a big leap of faith. So,
Well, Anthony, Akiyina,
oh, yes.
Do
Hey,
you know
Anthony.
him? Okay.
I
Do you
do.
spend
Well,
less or more living aboard versus on land in a small home? Like, how's the old budget?
that is a really good question.
Yeah.
So boats are, I was telling somebody this the other
If
day.
you
Boats
can
are a
fix
lot
them,
like,
I can answer this. Let me just say, if you can fix it yourself, you'll spend a lot less. But if you're like me and you got to
right,
pay $125 an hour, it really adds up because things
right,
have to be fixed pretty regularly.
exactly. Well, I was telling somebody that boats are a lot like kids. Like if your kid needs braces, I mean, it's something you do, and this one
That's
guy's
right.
like, I mean, so I probably spend more intentionally, if that makes sense. So when I was living on land, I would get, I don't know how many times I went to the
Oh, yeah.
mall or just to Target,
Yeah,
and
you
it's like,
can only
oh,
fit so much stuff on a boat, so you've gotta be careful
and
what
it's
you
not
buy.
that much, right? You
Right.
can't fit that much.
It's gotta have
So
2 purposes to come on boat. It's gotta
okay, what
it's
are the
gotta
two
have to
purposes?
well, if no, I mean, if something doesn't it only serves one purpose, it might not need to go on the boat, but if you can use it for
Yeah,
2 things, that's a
yeah,
good that's a good thing to run through your mind before you bring something on the boat. How
right.
much do I really need this? Okay, Florida Buckeyes has a question. Is this a buyer's market or a seller's market? Good time to buy. Do you see prices trending down? Can you talk about financing, please? Oh, these a lot of questions. Rates. What
Yeah.
year of boats are available to finance? Thank you. Wow, good
Okay.
question.
So is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Um, it depends on what boats you're looking at. So, um, right now I actually have a power boat listed, and another broker
Wow.
called me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I have somebody to look at your boat." I'm like, "Oh great." I admit that I don't know much about it, but anyway, that's more of a in the power. So okay, if you're looking at diesel offshore, what do you call them? Sport fishing boats. With the price of oil and gas and all that kind of stuff, that's more of a buyer's market. Um,
Diesel
like
or gas? Diesel
um,
or gas?
but actually both.
They're both
Um,
okay. Because I know
yeah.
it's cheaper to run a diesel.
Well, but some of these large sport fishing boats take
Oh,
thousands of dollars, so
yeah, way bigger engines. Okay, yeah, I see
yeah.
what you're saying.
So is it a buyer or sell market? It kind of depends on what
Depends.
you're looking for and where you live. So right now in the Northeast, when most of the boats are put away and buttoned up, it's probably more of a buyer's market. If somebody gets a contract on a boat that's on the hard, they're probably going to talk to you. Um,
Yeah.
uh, but it kind of depends on where the boat is as well. Let's see, is it a good time to buy? Well, I kind of go back to that
Well, he's in um,
Florida Buckeyes. Yeah,
oh,
I
he
don't
just
know.
said
Oh,
he just said where he was at. Oh, Newport Richie. So
okay.
he's down there by you.
All right. On the other side of the state, is it a good time to
Mhm.
buy? I guess I go back to, you can always make money, can't make time. So I think that's a very personal, it depends where you are, um, in
Yeah,
your
exactly.
continuum. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like I think of that whole kid thing, is there ever really a good time? Probably not. But, you know, a good time for one person may not be the right time for the next. And, this isn't the stock market, I guess.
If you have a will and you're going to use it, by all means, is what I say.
Yeah. Yeah. Do I
Now the
see
prices are trending down.
actually I've just listed I've written 4 listings in the past 2 days, and the ask price is higher than it's probably 10% higher for these particular boats than they would have sold for maybe 6 months ago. Now, that's the ask price. I am expecting an offer on one of those boats um, in a neighborhood that that's close to ask. So that's a good question. Again, it depends on what boats are for sale and what um, you know is it a popular boat, and is there what is the inventory on that? Um, and then financing. I okay, first of all, I am not
I can
a
answer
finance.
that one because I'm in real
Okay.
estate.
Yeah. So
Well,
what do you
okay.
see?
Well, what we're seeing is it is coming down a little bit. We do anticipate it will come down.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, here's the thing, like with real estate, and it has to be the same with boats, is when those rates do come down, with real estate, the prices are going to go up because
Right.
right now people are cutting their price. The sellers are cutting prices because people are pushing back because of interest rates. But when the interest rates go down a little bit, which they will this
Mhm.
year, prices of boats are going to go up. So, you gotta run those numbers. Do you want to wait and then have to pay more for a boat later? You can always refinance. They've got deals going on down here, refinance and not have to pay any lender closing costs. I don't know if it's the same, with boats.
Yeah. Well, boat. I mean, my experience, and I have not purchased real estate in the last 13 years. And prior to that,
You probably won't.
Probably not.
But hopefully other people will. So please give me a call.
No. I understand that. But I mean, we had rental property and, primary residence. And what's different about boats is they're more of a luxury item.
And that's what Anthony's saying right here.
Yeah.
Boats are investments. Yep. That's it.
It's well, it's not really a financial investment, but it may be an investment in your sanity, if you will.
Well, that's what he's saying. Boats are investments in yourself and experiences versus a financial investment. And
right.
And that's what sometimes the Gulfront condo can be that too. It's a little bit of both, where a condo may go up in value, but so it's a lifestyle thing.
It is. And I will be, I'll share without sharing like specific names or boats. In the last 6 months, I've done a deal, like the biggest deal I did was a $1.6 million boat. That was a cash buyer.
Yeah.
I mean,
I believe it.
That's incredible. So, I mean, at that level, finances are completely different than somebody who's buying $100,000 boat. And trust me, $100,000 boat, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
1% is not going to make a difference to a guy like, that puts out the cash, and things like that are not going to bother him. But
well, I was kind of, I mean, it was just interesting. So there are some financing, you have some financing options, but there are things that impact the financeability of a particular, of what a bank or a credit union will finance. So for example, new boats, new boats, they haven't depreciated. You can get financing on a new boat, I guess kind of like a new car.
Well, that's Anthony's question here. Do you see that question? Do you see that?
What is a typical down percent with boats, new versus used? Well, I have not sold a new boat, so I can't really speak to the new boat market, but used boats, generally they're talking about 20% down. Is my experience. And full disclosure, I've financed two boats, and I put way more than 20% down. And it was just, it just made me feel better, kind of thing, instead of parting with all my cash. But institutions are lending, and there are really good finance companies that I work with, meaning I can put buyers in touch with lenders that will help you navigate the process. I don't get involved in that. I have my own personal experiences, about using a credit union versus a bank. And I've even had occasion to use something called a light stream loan, which, is like a short-term loan that they don't even want to hold the title on the boat. So boats are when you finance a boat, it's a lot like a house in that you do a title search. You don't really have title insurance, but you do an abstract title search. You do documentation, a ship's mortgage, things like that. They're not filed with the state, but you have to remember, finance companies, a boat can leave. A house isn't going to leave its foundation, hopefully.
Right.
So there are some
can head to Mexico
involved. Yeah, exactly. So I would say figure 20% down. And again, if you're buying a new boat, I will certainly help, be happy to work with you.
I'm sure.
Totally. And I'll help you find financing. But financing isn't really the challenge these days, and you may experience this in real estate. The biggest challenge is insurance.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We're running into some, well, like with the condos, the HOAs are having to, the condo dues have really gone up.
Right.
You know.
So the insurance market, and again, I'm not an expert on insurance, but I think I own 5 boats, a Boston whaler. Like, I own 5 different boats.
Wow. Right now?
Yes, I have a problem. It's all right. Um,
That's funny.
3 of them are small, but anyway, but insurance
That sounds
companies.
fun.
I told somebody I need birth control, BERTH, because I looked at a boat the other day and I'm like, I feel like I should own this boat, but I don't need to buy it.
Oh, that means
But
you have 5. You have 5 policies. Oh my gosh.
I know. But I don't want to. First of all, you can't go without insurance. Well, I mean, okay, I just had this conversation with a buyer today, and he's like, "Well, I'll just go without insurance." I said, "Well,
Oh no.
I don't recommend that, because if you ever want to sign a lease with a marina or
Yeah.
haul out at a boatyard, the first thing they're going to ask you for is your insurance policy. And if you're
Yeah.
signing a lease
If he
with
owns a house and he gets sued, he's gonna lose his house.
yeah, well,
If he
and
gets into
funny,
an accident.
well, and I had another buyer who, I said, "Do you have your insurance?" "Oh, yeah, I have it. I have an umbrella policy." I'm like, "What? Wait, what are you talking about?" And he said, "Oh, I have this umbrella policy. It'll cover the boat." And I said, "The marina is going to want to be named as the additional insured on your boat policy." And that, I mean, I had an umbrella policy at one point, and that's not an option,
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Wow.
I mean,
Because
I don't think, but I don't
yeah,
know.
the guy that I'm thinking of, he had his boat in the back of his house, so I guess it wasn't an issue with that. But
Right.
uh,
But
but
in but
can you have it covered if you don't have an issue with a marina, or it's not
can you
recommended?
what do you mean? Can you have does an umbrella
Is it
policy?
Yeah? Is
Oh,
it good coverage?
that would be a question for an
Okay.
insurance broker. But I do know at my marina, where I have a lease that I've signed, here in Stuart, I have to provide a copy of my boat insurance policy, and they require $500,000 liability of all
Yeah.
the tenants, and they required, and most other marinas that I've dealt with, they want to be named as additional insured, which actually I have no
Right.
idea what that means, but I'm just complying because I'm happy I have a
They
slip.
have to stick their name on there. When I had my boat for a month at Marco Island at Rose Marina, and they don't require it if you're staying there for a week or something. But if you're staying a month, I had to contact my insurance company. And then my marina, I actually own the slip at my marina here in Orange Beach, and
Oh,
there's an HOA. It's in like a neighborhood, also
right.
condos and homes, and then it's the only place you can buy a slip here. So it's really, actually have a deed for that slip. And so I'm
Good
a
for
member of
you.
an HOA, and they require that the marina is named on it too. So, and it's
Yeah.
real easy to get. I mean, you just email them, and they'll add it and send it back to you. It's no big deal.
Right. Right. But I have noticed that the trend, at one point it was 250,000 in liability, then it went up to
Yeah,
300, and now it's at
right.
500. And I think what's happening with a lot of the safe harbor and um, the other big companies, Morningstar and all that, they're setting the standard, which, it is what it is. So, but
Yeah.
I guess
Well, if a storm comes, those boats make a mess in the marina. We can
I
say that.
know, that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay, let's see. What led you into being a broker?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
So this is like my third career, maybe. Um, so when I graduated from college, I actually worked for international paper for a couple
Oh
of
boy.
years as a salesperson. So I was fortunate enough to have had, some very formal Fortune 500 sales training with International Paper. And then I worked for Polaroid for almost 15 years. And then when I started having kids, I took some time off, and I was fortunate enough to be home with the kids. And when they went to school, then I decided, I'll become a teacher, and we'll have similar schedules. So I taught for 20 years. And as you know, most teachers have a side gig. And I just happened into becoming a yacht broker, actually through Hayden and Radine, who were also former teachers.
Yes. Well, one's a
but-
librarian, one was a teacher.
Right.
Right?
Well, media specialist now they call them, but yes.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So, and I remember I was in Indian Town, my boat was on the Heart in Indian Town, and I had gone to school, and I came back because I was living on the Heart in the boatyard, which is not the most glamorous thing, but I came home and this 350 was next to me, and they're like, yeah, we're getting
Island
ready to
Packet?
sell. Yes, it was an Island Packet 350. And they're like, yeah, we need to sell. And I'm like, oh. So I remember reaching out to Hayden, and Hayden's like, you need to sell boats. You know everybody. And I'm like, no, I just talk to everybody. So Hayden and Radine were very, they were very supportive and encouraged me to speak with Ed and Debbie Whitaker. And, Ed and Debbie really honestly took a chance on me because, they didn't know me from anybody. And, so I ended up teaching during the day, and you get out at 3:00. And then the moment I left school, I was furiously making calls and setting up appointments and selling boats at night, after school and on weekends. And I loved it because it wasn't work. I mean, it's work, but
I understand.
Yeah. but boat buyers are way more fun than 14-year-olds. So
Yeah. Well, here's Lynn here. Can you review what a new buyer should look for when searching for a broker? That's a great question.
that is a good question. So I think I'll go back to my first experience buying my boat, my first Island Packet, because the first boat I bought, the Morgan, I bought from an individual. And I didn't really understand the role of the broker when I went to buy my boat. He did ask me questions like, what kind of boat do you want, and how much do you want to spend? What's your budget? And in hindsight, it was not a real positive experience for me. But in terms of what should you look for?
You didn't feel like that he or she was working for you? Wasn't looking out for you?
Well, I guess I go back to my sales training when I was with Polaroid. We were not transactional salespeople. This is not, buying a boat or selling. I was with the professional division, and we were building relationships, and we were consultants, and, problem solving and coming up with solutions and educating,
Right.
customers and users. And I think my experience was more transactional. And, I try to educate, inform, and empower buyers, to get on different boats, get certifications. Buying a boat is not, for me, it's not a transaction. It's a process. And it's the beginning of a relationship. It's important to me to deal with someone who's honest and is upfront about things. I can tell you, well, the seller, but also just, if someone's coming to look at one of my boats, I'm going to be very honest and transparent, before someone gets on a plane and flies across the country. I can't tell you how many boats I personally looked at, and I was like, this is not the picture. What are you? And it's very
to be honest
disappointing.
about the issues that
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
going to need a little of this, a little of that, but it'll be great if you just,
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
I think, and is this person listening to you? Do they understand your needs, wants, and desires? I think that's important. And you probably experienced that in real estate as well.
Yeah, I'm not a high pressure salesperson. I find
Right.
out what they want, and I just try to go out and find what they want. I don't try to
Right.
make them fit in a circle into a square peg, or square peg fit in a hole. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Is I want to make that person. I want to find what that person's looking for. I want them to be happy,
Yeah.
and after sometimes a lot of work, they'll decide not to, and that happens, and
And it
that's
does.
you
And
gotta
and
take
it
some of those.
well,
But
and
hopefully they come back later or they send their friends because it was a good experience, so
yeah.
I don't think about the commission. I really don't. I know realtors probably say that, but I really don't.
Right. Right.
You
And
just get yourself in trouble when you do that. It's just that's not I can't focus on that.
yeah. And well, and
Yeah,
in boat sales, um, there are a lot of brokers who just focus on their core listings. They really want the buyer to
right.
buy one
Yeah.
of their boats because they make more
Right.
commission. And I kind of went back and looked at, my I evaluated my sales for last year, and almost 50% of my sales were with a co-broker. So,
Right.
and of that, how many were my listings? I have no idea. But I guess the bottom line is, you know, it I'm trying to do, like you, what's right for the buyer. Um, so
Well,
I
here's
think that's
Anthony's asking,
important.
are boat brokers like realtors? Do they represent the sellers primarily? If as a buyer broker, do they look nationally or regionally?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I've never been a realtor, but boat brokers, I think there is some similarity. Um, I will tell
Well, they
you, as
definitely
I
look
mentioned,
nationally or regionally, right?
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a client who is looking for a boat in Grenada right now. So I'm not sure that realtors have that
No, we don't do
latitude.
that. No.
Yeah,
No,
that
we
too.
have our areas of expertise and we stick with that.
Right, right, right. So I mean, I've found boats, I've put together sales for clients. There was a client who wanted a boat and he missed out on it. And I said, I'll find you one. And I found the
Yeah.
boat. It was in Italy, but it was owned by a guy in Norway. And my
Wow.
buyer was actually in Great Britain. And I mean, it was just kind of a crazy
Nice.
situation. So, but that was the other part of it. Do
Oh,
buyer
to
do
represent the sellers. Like if you're we have dual agency here.
right?
So how does that work with a boat broker?
That's a good question. So, I think the last 3 deals I did, was the listing broker, and I represented the buyer. And at that point, when I have both the listing and the buyer, then
Mhm.
I like to say I represent the boat. So, if somebody tells me something confidentially, I can't share it with the other party. I'm ethically not allowed to do that. Um, and in that situation, I step back and I feel like I'm representing the boat, and I'm also, how would I want to be treated in this situation? I'm really big on communication. Like, this is the next step. These are your options. So after the survey, the buyer and seller, there has 3 options. They can accept the vessel, reject the vessel, or accept the vessel with contingencies. And I'm probably saying the wrong word, but with conditions. So I'm informing everybody across the board on what all the options are. So 50% of the time I'm representing both sides.
Okay. So here we go. Is the broker paid by the seller or the buyer or both?
That's a good question. So when I list a boat, the listing agreement, probably similar to a real estate agreement, um, the listing agreement indicates the commission. So the seller pays the commission. If there's another broker involved, that commission is split with another broker. So the seller pays the commission.
Right. Okay, that's very simple. Yeah. I would like to go back to the insurance thing because I want to ask you what we're hearing about insurance for real estate is, for example, in our area, there were like 50 companies that would do insurance on the Gulfront condos, the Gulfront homes, and all that. And now there's 5 in the market. So that makes it a little expensive. But
Mm,
we're in America and somebody's going to see a need and somebody's going to come in the market. It always happens.
right.
After every hurricane, we see this. So in our situation, it will get better. There's going to be more companies in the market. Is that what you think is going to happen with the boats too?
That's a really good question. I think there's a real opportunity for um, for someone to step up and service the boats that don't necessarily meet the criteria of a lot of these companies. In fact, I had a text from someone earlier. They were told explicitly by an insurance company, I don't know which one, we don't insure boats over 20 years old. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, okay. So, not that I'm Berkshire Hathaway, but I would think that somebody would see some sort of, let's start,
Opportunity. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Well,
So,
and I have a 1998 boat and I have Geico.
right.
I didn't start with
And
Geico, but it's
and it's
because I
what?
had a cancellation. I didn't start with Geico because my first year of having my boat that I bought in 2020, it was with another company. And after a
Right,
year, they said, sorry, we're later. And so I went to Geico.
right.
And the reason I chose Geico is because there was a couple others that said, yeah, we'll insure you, but you can't sail solo at night. And I went, what?
Really?
What? Well, I got a problem here because I cross the Gulf or and I'm by
Yeah.
myself. And so I went to my local insurance broker here said, you know what? I can't find anybody. Call Geico. So I called
Yeah.
Geico and I said, do you have restrictions? And she goes, what are they? And I go, I don't want to tell you. And she goes, go ahead and tell me. I'm scared you're going to say no. And I told her what the other ones, and she goes, no, we don't have a problem with that. So
Yeah.
for everybody out there who's had problems,
Ugh.
right now Geico has solved all my problems.
Well, and Geico is I'm also insured with Geico.
Okay.
I have been insured with another company that I don't even think is in business at this moment. I think they went out of business years ago. So um, I will be honest, I treat insurance companies the way I treat the IRS. Like, I just want to pay my bill and I don't want that, like I want the least amount of interaction as possible because, it just seems like,
You don't think they're going to be very loyal? Next year they could bump
I don't
you.
know. Well, I mean, I don't know
Oh,
who they,
okay. Anthony's full of information. Geico will not insure multi-hulls. They told me today. Oh, that good info.
yeah.
Okay.
So there, my experience or what I'm hearing from clients is the insurance companies are making the rules and I don't know who they're answering to. And I don't want to make an insurance company upset because I need insurance, but
Yes, we do. We all need it. But
yeah,
like I was saying, maybe when more come into the market, they'll get more competitive.
yeah. Well, and one would hope. I mean, I've actually had buyers um, well, a couple of things. One, they want to do long distance. If you're going to go to the Caribbean, I don't think Geico insures you. I think you have to get a policy,
Oh, I
by
checked on
another.
that.
Yeah,
I think they have like a rider. I can't remember now, but I seem
yeah,
to remember maybe it was a rider I could add when I go or something.
right. Well, and I know Hayden and Radine have, um, they've explored it. So when
And when I
Geico
have
has
them
a
on, they'll be able to.
Yeah, Geico has a rider for the Bahamas, but I was going to say that I have clients who are insured with Lloyd's of London. Okay, so there are
Right.
international companies that are insuring boats, um, and I also will say that there are I do deal. I mean, I have given contacts to buyers. There are still insurance brokers who have several underwriters. Okay, and they have very specific let's say a multi-hull. There are underwriters that will specialize in multi-hulls, or there are underwriters that will specialize in trawlers, or there are underwriters that'll specialize in motor yachts. Okay, a completely different group.
Right.
So insurance brokers have access to many providers, insurance providers, whereas Geico used to work through the broker network, and now you go directly to Geico.
Yeah.
And I have no idea if Geico will insure a, $500,000 or $1 million motor yacht. I don't know, but
You just have to keep calling. You have to be persistent.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of things that impact insurance. Okay. And I was explaining this to someone today. It literally is 50% operator and 50% boat, if you think about it. Okay.
Yeah,
because
your credit history, your
driving record, do you have any
Yeah.
DUIs?
Right.
What, how long have you lived at a certain address? I mean, do you have a high risk job? I mean,
It's just like when you get insurance for a house, you can't say it's going to cost this much for this person, then it should cost for that. That's not how it works. It's
right.
it is based on the person, and much of it.
Right. Based on the person. And then the other part of it is really based on the boat. So what is the condition of the boat? Is it average, above average? Does it need new rigging or whatever? And then the condition, the valuation. All right. So is the boat valued at what it should be? What is the market value for the boat? Some companies won't. At one point, I thought I heard that Progressive had this 35 feet, $75,000 value. And that was like that, that was a sweet spot. Those were numbers years ago that worked. So condition, valuation, location. So I didn't realize this. I had a client who just bought a boat that is sitting in a barn in Michigan. They are paying more money to have the boat on the Great Lakes, even though it's not even in the water. It's in a barn. Because Great Lakes sailing is more treacherous than apparently sailing in the Chesapeake. So they have more storms. I mean, this is what I found out from this.
What about here? What about on the Gulf Coast?
Well, Florida and the Gulf Coast, I mean, again, I don't know. It would be great to have a couple. I do have some contacts in the insurance industry.
It'd be good to have an insurance person on here with us. Yeah.
Right. Well, just so that they can weigh in, because I'm not an expert. I do have 5 boat policies, but I can tell you.
I would say you're an expert.
Well, no,
but it does change a lot. So anything we're saying here is subject to change.
Like tomorrow. So no, when it changes, June 1st. June to not November 1st, but November 31st. That is that window of time for hurricane season. Yeah. So it's so condition of the boat, location of the boat, value of the boat, and what time of year are you buying this boat or keeping it?
And they look at the survey, and then they can ask you to fix stuff on the survey.
Right.
And it's their right to do that. And so then you have to send a report showing that it was fixed.
Right. And that's where your broker can help you navigate some of that. So there are oftentimes I've had boat deals where I'll give an example. An exhaust hose is cracked. All right. It comes up on the survey. The insurance company says that's kind of a safety thing. People can die if they inhale noxious fumes. That has to be fixed before we write the policy. So it has to be fixed before closing. So as the broker, I want the sale to happen. And I'm trying to facilitate, how can we make this work? So I am able to write an addendum that allows the buyer to pay, let's say they negotiated a reduction in price to cover these items. Then the buyer and the seller agree that a professional person will board the boat, install the hose, and provide documentation and receipts. And then it'll be done before closing, and the boat will close and it'll be insured. But that takes a lot of coordination, because as boat projects you just can't call up and say, I need this done in 30 minutes. It's not going to happen. So I think a good broker can help I have really good contacts and can get things done
Sure.
because I just,
You got to massage those relationships, those people
well,
that fix boats.
yeah, well, and also like this isn't my first rodeo to deal with hoses. I got the hoses. I can get those fixed,
Yeah.
a
Well,
rudder.
he's also asking, what are your thoughts on the Island Packet Cat that they made years ago?
I've never sailed that boat. It's an interesting boat. I've not even been inside one. I don't even know if there's one for sale right now. It's interesting. The one thing I can tell you about Island Packet that, and you probably appreciate this too, Tinsley, is Island Packet does not use balsa core in any of their boats, which is huge. Because balsa core, is like a sponge. If balsa, and they usually use it between the deck and the headliner in the boat. So on my Morgan, I don't know how water got in there, but it was like a cancer. So I
Oh
know
gosh.
that the Island Packets do not use any balsa in the boats, and that's the reason why I'm actually buying my second Island Packet, is because I went and I tried to buy another boat. I tried to buy a trawler, to keep in Florida, and I could walk on the decks and I'm like, that's spongy. What's going on? So I can tell from a construction
Ah,
standpoint
I
that
didn't know that.
the
I
Island
didn't.
Packet Cat is probably better made than, a competitive one, or at least it doesn't have the balsa. So, yeah.
And he says, Island Packet is such a great brand, a true blue water boat. I can speak to that. I've had two. I'm on my second one. And
Hey, well,
and then Mark Hurley says Island Packet with a couple of emojis there.
yeah. Well,
He loves
and
them.
the best kind of boat is the one that you'll use and that you'll feel safe in, and that's going to meet
Definitely. It's
your
not gonna win
needs.
any races, but it's definitely gonna keep you above water.
Right. And I mean, there are other boat brands that I have an affinity for. I was on a Nordic tug the other day. It was so cute. It was adorable. And I could see, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
that could be, the next boat someday. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
when I get too old to, you know, whenever that is.
well,
Hopefully not
I
soon.
no, but I think some of that is changing. I think unfortunately trawlers are kind of like, when you hear the word trawler, you think of like a station wagon. Do you remember station wagons 100 years ago? They don't even make them anymore. Now they're
Alright,
SUVs. That's way
SUVs.
cooler. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you will see the trawler market change, and it is changing right now because, I would consider a trawler. I would love to do the Great Loop.
Yeah,
I
me
follow
too.
a couple of YouTube kids. I mean, I call them kids. I have no idea how old they are. They're way younger than me, but they're doing the loop, and like, I mean, it's
We'll
awesome.
have to
And they're
do it when we get older, and we'll have buddy boats, and we'll just go do that whole loop.
absolutely. I'm kind of excited about it. So,
Yeah, why not? Hey, I don't have to worry about hurricanes.
but you just have to worry about the boat freezing. That would be the other part.
Oh, well, we get it all timed right for that.
Yeah,
So
there you go. There you go.
so this brings me to my question, what do you want us to know about the process of buying a boat? So this is where you get to freeform.
Freeform. Okay, well, so I kind of made some notes, and I guess I kind of go back to when I was teaching, the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So who are you going to go? Who are you doing this with? Who's going sailing with you in this process? And I think, for me, I encounter a lot of couples that are, buying boats. And as a female boat owner, slash the captain in charge, maintenance and everything, I think that it's important to get everybody to weigh in on what their expectations are, and to be honest about, their how important comfort is and things like that. So I think that's important. Who's going? what do you want your life to look like? I have a client who bought a boat to do the race to Alaska. Like, he just wants to race. He would be miserable in my boat because we're not racing anywhere. And he would
No,
never own a
not
trawler.
getting there fast.
Right, right. So, what do you want what is this going to look like? Are you going to live aboard? Do you still have to work? Can you do both? Do you want to go for a month or 6 months like you did? Or are you able to take off 2 years? And then the where is, where are you going? Like, I would love to do the Northwest Passage. I mean, is it going to happen?
Oh,
It could.
not me. Too cold.
Too cold, I know, but you get the t-shirt, you know what I mean? That would be fun.
Well, that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
You get to say you did it.
Yeah, I know. I kind of like that. And then what is your timeline? I talk to people and they're like, well, we're just at the beginning. That's okay. As for me as a broker, I've worked with some people, and I would love to have them on so that they can talk about their experience. I've worked with some people for, a year and a half, and then we finally found the right boat and they pulled the trigger. And now they're in Grenada. Like,
Okay, we gotta. We talked about this offline. We need to
yeah,
have some of those people on and talk about
absolutely.
how they hear that where they started and here's where they are now and how exciting that is and the tough things, the wonderful things. It's not all easy. You have to really
No.
want to do this.
Well, and I think that kind of goes back to expectations. I mean, for me, what I love about boating is, it challenges me and it changes me. I can't really say that my living in my house challenged or changed me. I don't know why. I mean, my house never, forced me to figure out where a leak was from, or, threatened to sink while we're in the middle of the ocean. So yes, I would love to revisit some folks that are just out there that
Well,
are
you
crushing it.
contact them and we'll set it up. That would be a blast.
Absolutely. And that's why I called my company Adventure Yacht Sales, because it's not about the boat. Okay. It's about, what do you want to do with the boat? What are you doing with the boat? What is your idea of adventure? Because the whole process is the adventure. Buying the boat, going to boat shows,
Researching it and
researching,
yeah,
talking to people, trying to crew for other people, joining a sailing club. That's part of the adventure. You
taking the
know,
lessons, ASA 101, 103, 104.
right, chartering a boat, having it be a disaster or having it be amazing. you
All of
know,
the above.
right. And that's part of the adventure. And I think, it's an important part of the adventure, because I have worked with clients. I had these clients that I worked with, and they had like the spreadsheet, and they had to have everything checked off on the spreadsheet, and they bought the boat that was on the spreadsheet. And I was like, okay. And I found out 3 months later they sold the boat, and I'm like,
Oh,
what happened?
it wasn't what they expected.
Well, you just can't like check things off. I kind of liken boating to, or buying a boat is like falling in love. You're going to get to the point where you walk on a boat and you're like, yeah, this is it. Forget the spreadsheet. It's I mean, I dealt with another guy who had the spreadsheet, and I almost wanted to say, when you met your wife, did you have a spreadsheet? Because I guarantee he didn't. I know he didn't. So I don't know.
Maybe he did.
I bet she did, actually. So
Okay, so how can let's put the website up.
okay. And this is my soft launch. I literally have only been on my own for 10 days. But Adventure
Yes,
Yacht
yes, you
Sales
just started it.
just started my company. And I have a Facebook page, and what I try to do is post, where I am, and what cool boats I come across. Not every boat is a boat I'm showing or listing. Not every boat that I see is for sale, but everything is for sale, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I just really like, hanging out at boat yards, and I can just get lost doing that. It's it's a lot of fun. And you talk to people and you find out what their stories are and, you know, how they got there. And it's very humbling at times when I step aboard a boat that has done a circumnavigation. Uh-oh, I feel like we lost Tinsley. Maybe we timed out. Oh, we might have timed out. I guess I'll kind of go through the rest of my list. So we talked about who is going to go with you, what your boating is going to look like. Do you plan to sail every day? Are you going to live aboard? Where do you want to go? What your timeline is? And then the last two, why are you doing this? I guess we lost Tinsley. So I don't even know how to sign off, but I do want to talk about the last part is why are you buying a boat? You know, how do you think this boat's going to change the course of your life? What is your vision? That's kind of super important. And then your broker or I can help you navigate the how. So I don't know what happened to Tinsley and I don't know how to go from here. And I don't even know how to pull up the comments. Stand by.